And today, the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, was in Jacksonville, and he stopped here at Fire Station number 1 right behind me, where he announced additional federal resources for fire departments across the country and their first responders who really are on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, he was joined by Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry, Congressman John Rutherford, and others as he talked about what's called the SAFER grant. It stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, to make sure that firefighters have the resources they need. And this grant will help fire departments with retention and also with recruitment.
They deserve our thanks, they deserve our gratitude, but most importantly, they deserve our respect. Unfortunately, fire departments across the nation are experiencing economic pressures during the pandemic. These pressures have an impact on municipal budgets and are straining existing first responder personnel across the country.
Now, Jacksonville Fire Rescue most recently received $5.5 million in SAFER grant money in 2018. That allowed them to hire 40 additional firefighters. And today, Fire Chief Keith Powers announced that Jacksonville Fire Rescue just today applied for this year's grant. Now, after the press conference, I was the only reporter to get a one-on-one interview with Acting Secretary Wolf, and I asked him about the impact that this grant money will actually have.
What we're trying to do here is provide flexibility for firefighters and for departments all across the country, giving them the ability to hire additional staff in the middle of the pandemic. What we know is as city revenue is down, it's going to impact some of their first responder services that they provide. So we've eliminated that 25% cost share match. So the federal government will be picking up 100% of these firefighters' salaries over the next 3 years, and we provide some additional flexibilities in FY20 as well.
Money needed now more than ever. Now, in my interview with him, we covered a wide variety of topics, and I wanted to ask him about hurricanes because, you know, the official start of the hurricane season starts next week, and FEMA falls under the Department of Homeland Security. So coming up tonight at 6, you'll hear what he told me about where people will evacuate if a hurricane heads our way. We're live downtown tonight. Heather Crawford, First Coast News, on your side.
The acting Secretary of Homeland Security spent the day in Jacksonville and stopped by a local fire station to announce a grant to help firefighters. Our Heather Crawford was the only reporter to get a one-on-one interview with him, and she joins us live right now downtown with what he had to say. Heather.
That's right, Anthony. Acting Homeland Security Chad Wolf visited Fire Station 1, you see it right behind me today, to announce that the federal government is offering a fully paid grant to allow fire departments all across the country to hire more firefighters at a time it's really needed as we have this pandemic. Now, it's called the SAFER grant. It stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, and it's intended to make sure that firefighters have the resources that they need. Now, he was joined by Congressman John Rutherford, Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry, and Chief Keith Powers, who announced that the city applied for this grant money again today. Jax Fire Rescue most recently received $5.5 million in 2018 for the SAFER grant, allowing them at that time to hire 40 additional firefighters. So this money really can have a big impact. Now, after the press conference, I had the opportunity to ask the acting secretary about a variety of topics, everything from the border wall, which he said is still being built during the pandemic, to hurricane preparedness. And next week marks the official start of hurricane season. I asked him where people who may have to evacuate would go, since shelters are usually lots of people crammed into one spot.
How do you evacuate people and put them in a shelter? And what are some other additional ideas and options that we have? Put them in hotels. We know the hotel industry is hurting right now. Hotel rooms are available. And so we saw that with some tornadoes that we've already witnessed in Mississippi and the South, and they're doing just that. So FEMA's prepared. They're on top of it. Again, we're training additional staff to do that, building them new facilities so they'll be able to respond to not only COVID, but also the upcoming hurricane season.
So hotels could be in place of shelters?
Absolutely.
Now, Acting Secretary Wolf is headed next to Daytona, where he plans to meet with NASCAR officials. Then he's headed to Cape Canaveral to watch the SpaceX launch scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. We talked a lot about SpaceX today, a wide variety of topics, including airport security. You'll hear more of my one-on-one interview with Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf tonight on First Coast News at 11. We're live downtown. Heather Crawford, First Coast News, on your side.